Forest. Village. The peasants were discussing the daughter of the blind Shim who was being sold for 300 bags of rice. Someone did not understand why anyone would need so much, since it was impossible for one person to eat it. But why no one? Bendok's mother was quite capable of doing so. Someone is sure that this woman would eat so much rice without sharing it with anyone if she wanted to. Someone suggested that she keep quiet, otherwise the mother of a guy named Bendok would hear. Someone reassured me. This rice lover is not here. It is not good to say that. You have to watch your words. Although in any case, this woman's daughter has come to an end. The girl is shown as if she fell into the water. She turns to her father with the words, "Even if the unfortunate one dies, she will live in her father's works, and they will not see each other again." In another frame, a certain person turns to a man, calling him Blind Shim. According to this gentleman, a disaster has happened. Blind Shim said that Cheon should come soon, but his interlocutor reported the sacrifice of this man's daughter. He asks him to live a long life, and the girl so wanted the Dragon King to really exist. It was as if she was already lying on gold, and gold coins were falling from above. Someone said, "Hey, child." The little girl thought, "The ruler of hell has come." The dragon was looking at her. He wondered how she got into the dungeon. He demanded an answer to the question if she heard him. The girl mentally turned to her father, that she was in the palace of the Dragon King. The girl bowed to the monster. Cheon and the daughter of the Shim house greets the Dragon King. She fell backwards with the words, "This girl dared to offend the king." He is perplexed. Usually they try to kill him, but then they ask him for mercy. Once this happened to a certain knight, who then asked for mercy, promising never to disturb the owner of the palace. But why does the girl look at the dragon like that? She called him the king of dragons, but the creature was only surprised by this. He was called Burkus. The girl is absolutely sure, yes, he is the king. With his magic, the monster created mountains of treasure, and all this time he hid from people, just like in the stories that were told to the girl. The dragon does not consider himself a king. The little girl is surprised. The Dragon King denies it. The monster admitted that the girl was talking about the former king of dragons. 500 years ago, the grown-up dragon Burkus decided not to create his own dungeon, but to take it from another. On his way, he encountered the dragon Caesaris, the former master of the dungeon, strong enough to destroy the entire world. Small in size, Burkus promised his formidable rival to spare his life if he gave up the dungeon. For the formidable Caesaris, this was nonsense. He only wanted to kill the enemy with flames, but he eliminated the enemy with one blow. The girl thought about this story of the dragon, but was not surprised that the monster was worried. The girl thinks that if he defeated the Dragon King, then he is the new king. But it doesn't work that way. Burkus thinks being king is too much trouble. He doesn't need it. The dragon wonders how the girl got to him. And she threw herself into the sea. But instead of dying, she opened her eyes and found herself here. The dragon is surprised because there is no sea near the dungeon. Does he think he will believe her? The girl disagrees. How could she dare lie to the Dragon King? He thought that the guest had broken through his protective barriers. No, that was impossible. People couldn't handle such magic so easily. What if she really had broken through? Apparently, he is not destined to get enough sleep. The dragon screams and demands that he not lie. The girl must have a secret or skills that helped her get here. The guest thought, yes, there is one of those. Cooking. The girl was praised for the soy sauce she made since she was a child. Especially, she is a woman. And when the little girl had a part-time job, she learned how well she made Korean pancakes in Jimcha. She remembered her dad. He always told his daughter that she cooked deliciously, and the girl's food could always be served at the table. Tears welled up in the eyes of the unfortunate girl. The dragon noticed this dejectedly. The girl remembered how she could cook nothing for her father except delicacies. She began to cry, and this upset the dragon. How noisy she was happy just recently, and now she was sad. The monster could not understand the words of the guest. The dragon decided to go to sleep, hoping that after 100 years the noise would go away. He didn't know then what this annoying child would bring him, and that he could be a lark dragon. Half an hour later, the girl wondered what she was doing in the presence of the dragon. She was just thinking about her father. Having fallen on the gold, the girl asked to forgive her. Raising her eyes, she saw the monster in a sleeping state. The guest came closer. This made the dragon seem even bigger to her. It was clearly taller than this little girl's grandmother's house. The girl's stomach growled. She remembered that she hadn't had breakfast at all. There was only gold around and nothing to eat. The dragon castle was truly incredible. The girl looked for the king's servants, but did not find them. She went to the space from which the wind blew. If so, there must be an exit. Should she go out without the owner's permission? And if she did, she would be able to meet the servants. In the depths of the building, the guest saw sweet potato leaves. She touched them. They were small, but the fruit she found was large. The girl even decided that she had dug up some kind of treasure, as if it were a peach from heaven. Yes, when the Dragon King wakes up, he will definitely be hungry. If he eats the root vegetable first, then he will allow her to eat it too. She returned to the room with the gold where the dragon slept. But how to prepare food? She couldn't hand the king raw sweet potatoes. You can't eat food straight from the garden. And such hot breath came from the monster's nostrils. It can be used to fry a sweet potato. The little girl found a sword in the gold and stabbed the fruit with it. It was hot, but there was no time to waste. She could do it. One day, a woman called out to the girl on the street. She called her by her name, Cheon Yi. It happened at the market. This woman called the girl to her and gave her a basket of sweet potatoes. She explained, "There is a large harvest of this vegetable, so let her take some for herself." The little girl was almost scared. Thank you, of course, but she doesn't know how to thank the vendor. The woman offered to share with others if she had a lot. Returning home, Cheon Yi saw her father on the bench. She will cook him sweet potatoes. The parent asked why this particular sweet potato. The daughter explained that the product was given to Jongsoon by her mother. She knows that sweet potatoes taste better if they are cooked over low heat. The memories stopped and she returned to the dragon's palace. He woke up and was surprised by the cooking thanks to his own breath. The king himself hoped not to see the guest after waking up, and she did such a thing. Maybe I should kill her? Cheon Yi apologizes. She just wanted to cook a delicious dish, but she acted stupidly. The dragon suspected the guest of trying to deceive him. The girl denies it in fear. How could she dare to cook food from the lord's castle for herself? She assured, she fried the sweet potato with all her heart. Let the dragon taste it. Berkus does not understand. She could run away. But she fries food? He promised to eat the baby if the sweet potato was not tasty. Is she okay with that? Cheon Yi is ready to sacrifice her life to the Dragon King. Even if she screams that she wants to live, it will hardly help. The dragon suddenly turned into an attractive guy. Noticing the surprised look from the girl, he asked, "Does she not like his appearance?" The guest denies. Everything is not so at all. She handed him the sweet potato on a tray and asked him to eat it, but carefully as the food was hot. Cheon Yi thought the Dragon King would be a grumpy streaker, but he turned out so handsome. The master was pleased to see how the girl blushed. The king thinks she's cute, but why is that? Didn't he get enough sleep? Kill her? Why does he have to eat it? Cheon Yi was worried about the king's words. If the food was not tasty, she would only die. The owner tried the food, but it tasted like a regular sweet potato. But was it always like that? Sweet like honey? Not too sweet, just right. Although it had to be chewed, the texture was soft, like sleeping under a warm blanket. The girl wonders if the king liked it. Maybe he wants more? Berkus doesn't know how to answer. He was furious recently. If he tells the truth, his pride. But he wants more sweet potatoes. According to Cheon Yi, the king looked strange. It seemed he didn't like the food. He eventually appreciated it. It was delicious. He couldn't decide the girl's fate based on one dish. If she cooked more, it would be easier to decide. So the king won't kill the girl, and she'll cook him more food. She asked, "Should she continue cooking?" Berkus replied, "Is she unhappy about something?" Cheon Yi believes that the master will destroy her anyway. The king gives her another chance, so why does the guest think so? She pointed to one gold, and among the treasures she found one sweet potato. Nothing can be cooked from jewelry. How can she complete the task without ingredients? He may be the king of dragons, but this is too cruel. Burkus wonders if the guest has ingredients. Will she cook something else? Hearing a positive answer, the master decided to send the girl for them. With a snap of his fingers, the king summoned the manticor. Once it ate people, but today it will take Cheon-yi out. The beast has fluffy fur, so the ride will be pleasant, and immediately ordered the girl to climb the creature. The girl was scared, but she climbed in. The manticore serves the Dragon King. He warned her not to try to escape, nor to deceive the beast, so she should come back quickly. Burkus watched them go and remembered that he had forgotten to order the manticore not to eat the girl. Well, if he eats her, then so be it. After such thoughts, the king went back to sleep. And Cheon-yi was afraid of falling during the flight due to the high speed. She didn't know how she would breathe because there had to be water outside. If so, there would be trouble. She was surprised when they weren't underwater. It was a world with trees and plants. The manticore landed the girl near a small pond. She felt relieved. If they were underwater, everything would have been more difficult. And there would be problems with herbs for seasoning. Rice and barley are also not a substitute. Cheon-yi has an idea. She will make Korean pancakes. They are also called haemul pajeon, is a pancake with green onions. It could be made from mugwort and lotus root. But because of the manticore, there is dust everywhere and you can't pick the vegetables. The beast began to roll and rub against the ground. It was strange. Why was it behaving like that? And the manticore was just itching. When the owner of the dungeon changed several centuries ago, the creature was glad to see Kaiserus dead. Manticore had been waiting for this day. For hundreds of years, he had been imprisoned by the dragon, but now he was free. He saw the new lord of the dungeon and thanked him for eliminating Kaiserus and asked to be freed. Burkus looked at his pet. He was too lazy to take care of him. The dragon threw the beast aside and demanded to protect the castle, not forgetting to eat people. So he remained in the dungeon. Fleas, diseased skin, stench. All this accompanied the manticore. Over hundreds of years of living underground, he had neglected himself. The girl thought that the satellite behaved like an animal with dermatitis, and he wouldn't mind if the little girl scratched his back. The manticore reminded her of a kitten. Cheon-yi picked up a piece of driftwood and began to scratch the creature's back. It was in euphoria. It had been a long time since he had experienced something like this and felt so relaxed. The beast was happy. This man understood him so well. Cheon-yi asked if she could scratch somewhere else. After all, the dermatitis wouldn't go away that quickly, but she was willing to keep an eye on him. Manticore pleased with the guest's presence. It would always be like this. So Cheon-yi made friends with the manticore unintentionally. Soon, she and the pure beast returned to the same room. She had collected the ingredients, but there was nothing to cook them in. The king was asleep at the time. Cheon-yi approached the Dragon King to find out if he was asleep. He turned towards the guest. It was so annoying. The girl apologized for waking up the master, but she couldn't cook now. The girl really wants to finish faster, but she has nothing to cook in. The king suspected the guest of wanting to use his fire again, and she listed the necessary things: a frying pan with a lid, a saucepan for the dough, and an oven. The gentleman is surprised. Does she need all this? She confirmed. Everything. Burkus panicked and covered himself with a blanket on the bed and declared his intention to go to bed. The girl reminded him that without all of this, she would not cook anything, and she conveyed the king's words. He would kill the girl if he did not like the food. Therefore, she would not be able to return home. Cheon-yi turned again to the master, calling him young, loving, and full of virtue. Cheon-yi is afraid that he might dislike the king. What cried out? What should he do then? But he calmed down immediately. The girl only asked for one small request. Burkus thought that the guest was trying to take advantage of him. The gentleman thinks that the girl is honestly trying to fulfill his own task, so it is worth thinking about. He suggested that she use what she will find here, because he is not aware of the things that the guest spoke about. But Cheon-yi saw only gold. Where should she look for everything? And the king fell asleep again. How difficult it was for her with him. The manticore heard their dialogue. His good man got into trouble, and he wouldn't let the dragon eat the poor fellow. The beast waved all its paws in front of the girl. She did not understand. Did the creature want to help her? He waved affirmatively again. The manticore called the guest to follow him. In one of the basements of the palace, there was living armor. With the magic of movement, they protected the dungeon from enemies. Let them move with the help of magic. No one cares about them. Eventually, these parts will rust and fall apart. They have been good for nothing for 5 centuries. The manticore brought the girl. He asked her to come and fix the armor. It began to move on its own. The guest noticed it. Yes, this castle is really interesting. Cheon-yi turned to the armor and said that she would have to disturb it for a few seconds. She had to use the rope. It was torn, but the girl hoped she could tie it. The rope looked very old. If you overdo it, you can tear it. But if you don't pull it long enough, there is a risk that it will come undone. Finally, everything worked out. The rope may be old, but it can be replaced. The armor suddenly came to life and gave the girl a shield. The girl did not understand why. But she looked defenseless, and this was how the armor wanted to thank its savior. The shield was hollow and round inside, but if you remove the handle, it would work as a lid. Cheon-yi thought about using her helmet as a saucepan and her gloves as a grater. She turned to her armor for help. And Daeho, the manticore's nickname, can breathe fire. She began cooking, asking her companions to wait. How will the Dragon King eat pancakes? Maybe he'll eat them in one bite? Or carefully cut them? What if he burns himself? He might even scratch his mouth with the crispy edges. Although these are just pancakes, the girl really wanted the king to enjoy them. He woke up and looked at her. He remembered that she called herself Cheon. Yi. She seems naive, but perhaps she hides some motives. The baby's food is tasty, but that's all. She can't fool the Dragon King. The girl, meanwhile, borrowed a helmet from the armor and began to put food on it. Berkus decided to uncover the guest's past and find out the truth. The girl chopped wormwood, crushed lotus root and peas. Then she added salt from the mountain peaks and water from the palace fountain. Having seen the past, the king saw her very small in her father's arms in the market. A certain merchant chased the father and the baby away. She screamed that she had nothing to sell without him, so let her go. The king looked at the village and for the first time saw such houses and strange clothes. Was she from another world? The man looked at the girl. He thought it was very difficult for her to have a father like him. In one house, they were helped with food. The poor man thanked her for it, and the hostess reassured him because she would have thrown the food away anyway, even with trouble. Then the already grown-up Cheon-yi stood at the gate of the house and asked to contact her if the owners needed help. The king did not understand what the girl was doing at this late hour, and she sewed to order. One day she was carrying firewood, but she tripped and fell. Her disabled father was afraid for the girl, but she reassured him that she was okay, although she scratched her palms until they bled. The king noticed this scene. Of course, she is not okay, as she claims. Another time in a tavern, a girl was asked to pour soup into a plate, but she spilled the brew on herself and burned herself. And again, the unfortunate girl insisted that nothing serious had happened, and the king saw it. Cheon in the evening, Yi washed her hand in a pond. She was sad because there was no work. Before that, a monk came to them, assuring that her father would regain his sight if he donated 300 bags of rice. The blind man, overjoyed, quickly agreed to do this. The monk bowed and left. The girl learned from her father about the priest's demand, and in the evening she thought about where to get these 300 bags. 2 men were talking nearby. One told the other about the raging sea, so it is impossible to sail there even by boat. The second answered, "Are we talking about a ceremony? Aren't they preparing now? And what should they prepare? They don't have any sacrificial food or a person." People wondered who would risk selling themselves for 300 bags of rice. The girl ran up to the men. One of them recognized her. Cheon-yi is happy. Now her father can get his sight back. The girl's father told her about the Dragon King who lives in the Indansu Sea. His palace is filled with decorations. There are also servants who serve the monarch. When she jumped into the water, she wished her father a long life. The king, having learned this, did not understand. What a fool. Because of this, she jumped into the sea. How people differ. Now it is clear why she calls him king. The girl does not even know how to lie. Berkus was disappointed, and the girl already wanted to make pancakes. And the temperature was right. The king admitted, her life is not sweet. Cheon-yi pressed the pancakes with her hands to get a better shape. My father always liked the crispy edges. She hoped that everything was fine with her father. Finally, the girl finished cooking and brought the dish to the king. He came to the conclusion that she should look as if she had just woken up. He asked what she had brought. The answer, lotus root pancakes. It looks strange. According to the guest, she cooked this in the spring in her city. The food is tender and spicy. Cheon-yi put her heart into the food, so let the king try it. As soon as he touched the pancakes, the guest's eyes swam. The girl still hadn't heard the monarch's decision about her. She finally came to her senses. Burkus asked how long she had been working. The guest tried to laugh some more, but she didn't know how long. The king is surprised by her ability to still smile in such a situation. The girl wonders if she can return home. The monarch now asks himself, can she return on her own? She clearly thought about this before jumping into the water. The king covered the baby with a blanket on the bed and began to try the pancakes himself. He decided not to treat her like that next time. But he had to keep the guest close by so that she could cook delicious food. One pancake was oversalted. The king won't understand the real taste of the dish either. But the second one was the same. Well, she took it. In the village, tax collectors were driving peasants to the central square. The chief, a local feudal lord, asked, "Are there 50 people here?" A knight from his retinue assumed that there were, but was immediately reprimanded by the chief. He had to apologize. The feudal lord did not continue the quarrel. According to him, people would not run away far anyway. Before that, he had spoken with the owner of these lands. According to him, the collected taxes were less than they should be. The feudal lord noticed that the peasants were running away and not paying. According to the aristocrat, in order to get something, you have to give something. The overseer promised to catch all the scoundrels and collect the remaining money. The gentleman emphasized that no matter where the people fled, they remained local residents. Shouldn't they be punished by law? Remembering these words, the feudal lord decided to catch up with the refugees. He demanded that the peasants introduce themselves, otherwise they would be punished. The headman stood up first from the crowd, but the collector was still dissatisfied. He asked differently, "Does he live here?" The head of the village confirmed. "He lives here." The villain turned to the people again. They understand that taxes are a sacred duty and must be fulfilled. If they are irresponsible about this, they will be punished to the fullest extent of the law. The headman pleaded and grabbed the villain's leg. He explained that their children were starving because of a bad harvest and taxes had increased 5-fold. The feudal lord asked to let his leg go. According to the headman, if the villagers all chipped in, the payment amount would still be large. The unfortunate man didn't know what to do, but the guards simply beat him up. The feudal lord doesn't want to listen to excuses. A bad harvest? The children are starving? What kind of excuses are these? The villagers need to work harder. For the sake of the manager, through loyalty and obedience, they are obliged to work day and night. And what is the result? The peasants sleep all night, eat, and cannot pay taxes. They cannot escape from this. The crowd noticed that it didn't matter how hard they worked. The tax collector believed that a lack of effort and enthusiasm should cause anger towards oneself. Taking up his sword, the villain accused the people of tax evasion and desertion. Therefore, they are to be punished. All the grain will be confiscated and the village will come to an end. The villain was triumphant. The people were sad. But then a manticor flew up with Cheon-yi on his back. Everyone was horrified. A few hours before this, Cheon-yi was cleaning the dungeon and woke the king. He was unhappy. He wanted to sleep so much. The surprised girl pointed to the rising sun, but Burkus was not delighted. It rises every day. According to the guest, people should wake up with the rising of the sun. The king reminded her that he is not a human, so he can sleep as much as he wants. Because of the noise, he cannot fall asleep. Cheon-yi had never heard of such a thing. The king couldn't believe it. Was the girl really talking about that incident? Before that, the guest had brought pancakes to the monarch. She thought he would be hungry when he woke up. So she left some just in case. The girl herself was hungry and decided to eat a little. But the food was salty and she drank 5 cups of water in one gulp. The king considers cleaning a good thing, but not to such an extent. He is surprised by what he sees. The girl put away all the things and put the treasures in piles. Cheon-yi was still going to clean the master's room, but that was enough for him. He wondered if the guest had gotten enough sleep before cleaning. Yes, she slept for about 8 hours. The king is confused. Only? Dragons fall asleep for at least 10 years, and when they wake up, they say how well they slept. And the girl says 8 hours. That's why people live less than 100 years. Now, Cheon-yi will always make such a noise. And if he kills her, he will break his own promise and lose the power of the dragon. This stupid cleaning. You can't turn a blind eye to it. And then the king came up with a way out of the situation. He gives the guests some candies. They are hard, but if you put them in your mouth, they melt. They are hard to chew, but very sweet. And the guest did not understand how the gentleman could perform such miracles. Berkius asked the girl to make some of these sweets herself. He thought to himself that even though she was good at cooking in the dungeon, she wouldn't be able to repeat the candies. Cheon-yi didn't want to die, so she had no choice. The king realized that she would have to stop cleaning to prepare it, and he would be able to sleep well. The guest asks, "Does the host want her to make rice caramel?" It sounded strange to him. Berkius wonders if she can cook this. Cheon-yi is forced to ask again, "Can we make candy here?" The king confirmed, "Right here in the castle." The girl needs barley or wheat for flour. She had never seen anything like this in the dungeon and didn't understand where she could find it. Why did the king give the poor thing these tasks? Did he even listen to her? But he was lying on the bed and promised to get up when everything was ready. A manticor appeared in front of the guest, although she had not yet managed to call him. Cheon-yi tells the beast how good it would be to find ingredients for rice candy. The monster asks to trust him. Soon they arrived at a village where a feudal lord was torturing people. He was afraid that the manticore would crush him with its huge paws. The villain was sad about his situation, but he had to be calm. He couldn't die like that. The girl greeted the tax collector, but he did not see her because she was sitting high on the manticore. Cheon-yi asked the beast to go a little lower. The man was surprised. Can people ride something like that? No, that can't be. Especially such a little girl. A girl dressed in a strange outfit, riding a monster, politely greeting. This is a witch. The feudal lord was horrified by such thoughts. Cheon-yi got off the manticore, introduced herself, and asked the warrior, "Isn't he the elder?" He didn't understand at first, but was despondent. It was the witch. He was finished. The little girl hoped that the guy wouldn't mind answering why he needed the sword now. He looked at her and at the terrible manticore. The feudal lord did not know why she was interested. Tell the truth and admit to trying to kill the villagers? By saying something bad, he would provoke the witch. And if he deceived, then the guest will destroy him. The man has made up his mind. He holds a sword. And for the wolf. The villain raised his weapon. The girl clarified, "Does he mean the mountain wolf?" The warrior is happy to answer that he does. He hoped to fool the guest. He told her how wolves had been seen frequently lately. Hearing about the terrible state of the city, he began to worry. Cheon-yi realized that he had good intentions. The villain was afraid that if the girl found out about his deception, he would not survive. The little girl sympathized with the locals, as she had heard about the mountain wolf's ability to steal both poultry and children from people. The girl suggested to the tax collector to build a strong fence around the village. If it was high, the animal would not get in. The boy had to agree, since that was the witch's wish. The man turned to his guards and ordered them to build a fence. Otherwise, they would die because of the witch's revenge. They set to work and kept an eye on the manticore. If the people started to idle, the monster would kill them. The tax collector was afraid that he would become a witch's guinea pig, so he had to finish building the fence. He did not want to die now. Tears were dripping from the face of this unfortunate man. Later, it took half a day to build the fence. The girl looked at the structure with delight. She didn't think that the guards would cope so quickly. The warrior thanked her for the praise. In his mind, he begged the witch to leave him alone. The guest even felt awkward because of the people's help. The guard didn't understand her. And did she reveal him? Cheon-yi asked the guy to give her some ingredients for cooking, but the man did not understand why she needed them. And what or who does the girl want to use them for? The feudal lord didn't understand it. A little? Is she talking about the arms and legs of each of them? The little girl clarified, so that she could squeeze out the juice. In his mind, the guard was already imagining how they were squeezing him out. He was even preparing for a meeting with his dead mother. It's too early for this blockhead to see her. The guy couldn't hold back and fell to the ground from nerves and fear. The peasants didn't have much, but the elder and his kinsman gave her a pot of essentials. She thanked them, and the manticore caught a wild boar for the good villagers. The beast felt it necessary to thank the villagers because they helped a person dear to him. Cheon-yi is happy that she has settled everything and can now work on the dough. Back in the palace, she starts cooking. The king wonders, hasn't she eaten anything herself? And she's been running around with food for the second day. The guest smiled and showed the pot. There's water in it. The dragon ruler is even more surprised. She was running around with cold liquid? Is she making fun of him? No, Cheon. You didn't think anything like that. When wheat seeds are warm, they heat up and germinate. To avoid this, the girl put them in cold water to make dough later. Burkus is confused. The seeds are heated? Was she a farmer? She disagrees, but the king is sure the guest can be called a super farmer. The little one worked hard to create rice candy. Burkus seemed pleased. He would be able to eat more caramel, but he was worried about the girl's damaged hands. When she started handling the candies, they were intact. The king wonders how long it will take to cook. 5 days. And again, the ruler is surprised. Is there some problem? The girl wonders. No, but that is how long the king will not be able to sleep normally. He just made the girl do it. And her hands. She doesn't have to overexert herself like that time. And he can't even take a nap. But why is he so worried about it? In the end, he allowed the girl to do as she liked. She thanks him and wakes the guy up when she's done. As he lies down, he sees the joy on his hostess's face. What's so funny? And is he really that worried about some person? In the garden, the girl found malt and took the main ingredient, sweet potato. Only you need a bigger pot. Although if you cut the vegetable, everything should fit. But when cooking, all the aroma will evaporate. Cheon-yi remembered her pot at home. It would be nice to have one here. She was always in debt to Daiho, but she could handle it herself now. A few days ago, she walked through the palace and saw how much gold there was. The manticore confirmed in its own language, dragons like jewels. In front of the new door, Cheon-yi asked if there were many decorations in the other rooms as well. The beast answered negatively. They entered a room with many paintings. Manticore explained that people had lived here before and they had hung this. He did not understand why people would collect this. The girl approached a painting that was not so decorated. She just wanted to touch the painting, but the manticore prevented her. It was dangerous. The guest thought that her companion was angry because she was touching these objects. The little girl apologized and promised not to do it again. The beast made a sign that the girl didn't understand anything. He pushed her towards the painting and slightly moved the piece of art. Right next to the painting, the floor slabs parted and a dark hole appeared. Manticore says, "It is dangerous to touch anything." The guest did not expect a hole in the floor. It turns out that Daeho saved her. But he is not angry. If it were not for the girl, he would have health problems. Thanks, Cheon-yi Beast takes a bath, is combed, sleeps. He is ready to lead his girlfriend through all the traps. The monster waved his paws, which meant for the girl to remember everything. But she did not understand him. The manticore showed traps with spears, crossbows, fire, stakes. She was glad of such an excursion and thanked the beast. She saw that he was already asleep. If it weren't for the creature's stories, Cheon-yi would not walk carelessly through the halls like that. And today, walking between the columns, she wanted to find the pot. But in this place, it is hardly possible. Only statues, so it is necessary to look in other rooms. Opening another door, she heard a suspicious sound. In the depths of the room, there was a statue of some creature. And in his bedroom, the king woke up. Strange silence, and just yesterday the guest was running around the room. Did something happen to her? He has some healing magic. Was someone caught in a trap? The king asked the little bee to check it out. But the girl had already appeared in front of him. This surprised the dragon in human form, the elusive gargoyle killer. A monster that disguises itself as a statue and attacks its opponent from behind. When Burkus took over the dungeon 500 years ago, he was pleased to have 2 monsters at once. The owner of the castle has changed, but the gargoyle wants to continue to protect this place. In the dragon's opinion, if the monster is among those similar to him, then the gargoyle will be of more use. The creature agreed with this. Once among the statues, the gargoyle never met a single person, standing in the form of a monument for 500 years. Seeing Cheon-yi, the monster mentally begged to come to him. Stone tears flowed from the creature's face. A girl approached the statue, introduced herself, and told it that she was in service to the Dragon King. She asked it to take care of her, but in response, she heard something like crying. The gargoyle was asking for salvation. The guest wondered if something was hurting this creature. The gargoyle continued to silently ask for help. The girl had already tried to move the monument and remove the stone, but it was no use. She remembered about the steam. Maybe it would be enough. If you activate water and fire magic at the same time, hot steam would form. The girl hoped that would be enough. She remembered her old sick grandmother. Then the girl put compresses on her, but the woman asked her to stop until the little girl got sick herself. Then the grandmother left her. That care for a loved one was not a waste of time for the girl. Therefore, everything will be fine with the gargoyle. Cheon-yi took a stone and threw it at the statue. The king's bee was nearby. The bee's eyes are the eyes of the king himself. He saw what the guest was doing. He expected her to be cooking. But why all this with the gargoyle? The monster itself was finally free and could fly. The manticor is glad of his comrade's freedom, and the gargoyle is curious how this man did something like this. The girl asked the creature not to waste too much energy. The flying monster is happy and ready to thank his friend. Now there is no need for the dungeon, and the gargoyle will protect the girl. And she decided to bake sweet potatoes with steam. Soon she will present the king with a large and beautiful caramel. Cheon-yi decided to use Daeho fire this time. The temperature is high and the caramel can stick together, so you have to watch the fire. The king is pleased. The guest does what she was asked to do. He couldn't wait for the girl to succeed. He didn't notice how he fell asleep. When the dragon woke up, he remembered that Cheon-yi was supposed to wake him up when she finished work, until nothing was ready and he fell asleep again. Then he woke up, but there was no change. How much time had passed, and the guest moved it all. Finally, Cheon-yi finished. Now she did everything right. But what if the king doesn't like it? She woke him up and asked him to try the caramel. The hostess tried very hard, but she wasn't sure if the lord would like it. He reminded her that the girl would have problems then. How could she forget about it? In any case, even if she tries not to think about it, there are still thoughts of being eaten by a dragon. The king does not understand the girl. He will just take and eat her. Cheon-yi asked, if the ruler considered her an ingredient, would he simply boil her? Or fry and bake her? Or even eat her raw? Isn't it customary to cook food? The king was confused. She thinks about this a lot. He just wanted to scare the guest. According to the girl, he is not good at cooking, so he can cook something well unlike her. Will Cheon-yi be tasty enough? The king wondered if she was worried about his appetite. The guest wanted to know how the dragon would cook her. The unfortunate woman bowed and apologized for saying such useless things. Burkus is not angry and thanks for the treat. He tries the caramel. The color is ordinary, but the texture is pleasant to the taste. The ruler decided to bite into the new masterpiece of culinary art, and in the tavern sat that same feudal lord who, over a mug of beer, told about the encounter with the girl and the manticor. For him, this is a terrible creature larger than an elephant, and the rider, she really is a witch. With such a face, she has no business taking someone's life. But for the sake of protecting honesty and justice in the world, a warrior will gladly sacrifice his life and kill a witch. And in the palace, the king couldn't bite the caramel. The girl asked not to worry, to chew it little by little and it would melt. After all, the more the dragon chews the food, the thicker it becomes. The caramel is sweet, but when you chew it, it melts and an incredible taste appears. Something similar to sweet potatoes, but slightly different. According to the owner, she learned how to make this product using a recipe from a neighboring grandmother. Cheon-yi is upset. She thinks her skills are inferior to her grandmother's. The dragon doesn't think so. The dish is impressive. He caught himself. He almost called the food delicious. The girl was confused, but the king remained silent. It is too early to decide. The king needs another dish. According to the guest, he keeps saying the same thing. She already thinks it is all a lie. Burkus understands. He has been found out. In response, he shouts, "Does she think he is a liar? How could the girl think of him like that?" The dragon would now prove otherwise. To do this, the ruler would go to his ward's native village. This caused surprise and interest on the part of the little girl. He was so worried that she had misunderstood him. Cheon-yi remembered her father. How is he there? Berkis took the guest by the shoulder and asked, does she believe him now? They were standing on the street. The king already regretted about the village, but you have to take responsibility for your words. The girl apologized for not being able to help the lord. The king sat down on a stone and calmed her down. Everything was fine. He would figure it out. I lay down on a rock and remembered the name of the village. Hwangju. Cheon-yi stood nearby and the dragon asked, will she continue to be here? The little one is determined to protect the master. The manticor is also nearby. Who else is protecting whom here? The king promised to return soon. He rose into the air and looked at the two of them. He hoped everything would be fine. It began to snow. They didn't even notice how close the warrior from the tavern was standing. A sweet girl, a monster next to her. Everything fits. She's a witch who wanders in the daylight. And what's behind her? Looking closer, the knight saw the king lying down. That's her victim, Knight in Sorrow. Such a young man and a victim of the witch. The rumors are true. She keeps her youth this way. She won't allow it. But Cheon tried to stop his advancement, Yi. True, the warrior still grabbed the ruler in his arms. The king, in the form of a ghost, found himself in the girl's village. Children were running past. There were houses. Both the clothes and the dwelling were similar. He was not mistaken. But where does her father live? The villagers did not see him when the ruler passed by. For this reason, Berkis could not find out from anyone where he should go. A dog barked at him near one of the courtyards. And to the king's surprise, he was asked to go inside. From behind the door, they asked if he was eager to know the answers to his questions. Before entering, Berkis wonders if he can be seen here. Is there an unusual person waiting for him? The king was offered to sit down, but he can stand. The guest needs to know where Hwangjeong's house is. The newcomer was offered rituals, secrets of fortune, love spells, all the talismans. According to the hostess, the guest should be glad that he found a shaman like her. She can control spells and give luck. As soon as the king in his ghostly form entered and asked about Hwangjeong, the shaman cried out, "Ghost!" And in a panic, she began throwing some seeds at the guest. He went outside and realized she was an ordinary swindler. Berkis regrets that he has wasted his time. He came across a drunk local who passed by. The king thought out loud that such behavior was insignificant. There is no need to drink if it does not come out right. The drunkard turned around and apologized to the king. He was surprised. Did the peasant really notice him? The drunkard wanted more alcohol, but he met his wife, who was outraged by the disappearance of her husband. The poor fellow sat down on a bench and began to grieve. He complained about not being able to see his father. Berkis sat down next to him and asked if they could see him. The poor fellow fell off the bench with a terrible face. Who was next to him now? The king grabbed the man by the shoulders. So he sees him? If the peasant continues to scream, he will take his soul. But nothing will happen if he answers a few questions to the stranger. They came to a forest where the peasant told them to go straight ahead and then cross the river twice. The king asked if he was sure of these words. The unfortunate man answered positively with a shudder. It was obvious, the guest noted with displeasure. The ruler decided to thank his acquaintance for his help. He asked his name. The answer was Hong Gildong. This is one of the most famous heroes in Korean literature. He helped and protected the poor. The king promises to transfer his magic to the boy's left and right hands. If he trains for a year, he will be able to use magic 3 times a day. In fear, the poor guy cried out that he did not understand anything about what was happening. Berkis warned that it would be a little hot, but everything went well. Hong was lying on the ground, but from that moment his life changed. Finally, the ruler found the girl's house, but in poor condition. When he entered, he saw his mistress's father sitting on the floor. He was trying to draw her portrait in the hope of finding his own. The man's mother was shouting at the poor man. He's at it again. Does he really think she'll come back that easily? The woman advised her son to forget about his daughter and live happily. And what about 300 bags of rice? The poor guy's companion is disappointed with her fate since she has to take care of such a person. Berkus watched and did not understand this whole scene. A Cheon-yi at this time demanded that the knight return the Dragon King, but he resisted. He screamed. The girl thought that he would notice what was happening to the man. He considered the ruler. Finally, the girl said that it was the Dragon King. The knight was horrified. She was talking about Kajotis. Cheon-yi corrected herself and named the creature she was making pancakes for. The warrior accused her of lying. Allegedly, even the children heard about the presence of the true Dragon King named Coyotes in the cave. The girl will not deceive him by using such a stupid name. But if she tells the truth, the knight is ready to wear a flower in his hair for the rest of his life. Suddenly, the one they were talking about took the form of a dragon. He asked ironically, "What to do now with such a name?" Apologized to the guest. A few hours before Berkus returned, the manticor sneezed loudly and the food did not disorient the knight. He blamed the power of the witch for this, but she will not escape punishment. Cheon approached the warrior Yi. She needed ingredients for the seasoning, and this guy showed up just in time. She asked if he sold hot peppers. He widened his eyes in surprise. The witch was from the Chosen dynasty, trained in cooking and housekeeping. The strange knight only grabbed the king and rolled down the ravine where they were all. Cheon-yi didn't understand why that madman had taken the ruler. Fraudsters often impersonate others to kidnap people. Even if the king wakes up in a different place, he might not come back. The girl thought about her father and decided to find the king. They shouldn't just stand around doing nothing now. The mistress turned to the manticore for help, but he didn't want to look for his own ruler. Daeho didn't want to save the lazy guy he thought the king was. But the girl eventually managed to persuade her pet. And Berkus explained to the knight that it was wrong to call him by his name. The warrior is surprised. There really is a dragon in front of him. The warrior realized that this was his chance to both become famous in history and to protect humanity. He grabbed his sword and shouted that he would cut off the monster's head, bringing peace to this world. But the truth is that he only looks like a savior. The guy's name is Michael. He's a courier. Girls admired him. Sometimes they even liked the way he drank water. Once, when he was wasting time on a stupid job, and in the forest he met 3 bandits who demanded that he turn out his pockets and bag. Michael tried to look menacing, and it worked. Even if they were bandits, he had little time left to reach the village. The guy couldn't lose the package, and he suggested that the robbers run away, otherwise they wouldn't live. They ran away in panic, and the courier was surprised. His deception worked. He considered it luck. One day he watched as some people with guns entered the village. They soon disappeared, and the villagers thought that Michael had scared them. They began to call him a hero, and he began to consider himself one. Michael was the knight who wanted to save the poor young man, Dragon King. He told them on his knees about wanting to save the world and called himself a hero. The king didn't care. And the knight explained. The more he thought about it, the more disappointed and sorry he became. M realized that he wasn't one. Michael had fooled everyone. He didn't want to be ashamed and suffer. The guy was always tormented by thoughts about why he was born in that world and what he should do. Screaming, the poor guy wanted to die than live without a reason. He asked to kill him. Then the poor guy would pay for everything. Berkus refused to kill the knight. But isn't it an honor to die at the hands of a dragon? Michael demanded that he be rewarded with a heroic death. But the king won't do it. He doesn't want to worry about such things. Cheon wants to tell the guests something Yi. She made sure the hero was okay. She still thought of the guy as one. He noticed it. How can he be so careless about life? The girl does not think it is right to take his own life because of uselessness, especially in relation to his relatives who gave him life. The little girl suggested that he try her dish and think again. The manticore was dozing. The knight was sitting on the lawn, and the king was just standing. They all watched the mistress standing in the river. The dragon didn't know how to tell her everything about the housework, but explaining wouldn't help her come back. The unfortunate woman will only miss home more. But he decided to tell everything, because a promise is not just words. Finally, the cook showed the king a black snail. There is edible meat inside it. The dragon doubts that this will be enough to fill him up, but the girl will add other ingredients. The knight is also surprised that he will have to eat. The king turns to the imitator hero with displeasure. He wouldn't be picky about the food that was shared with him, would he? In fear, Michael promised not to resist. He rushed to help the girl, but she could handle it herself. According to her, the water in the river was cold, let her rest. Soon, she turned to the hero, as they called him here. The girl wanted to use the guy's saucepan from his bag. He gave it to her without any problems and wanted to help with something else. But the girl refused. The king came up, wondering if she had finished. But Cheon-yi still needs to rinse the snails. She will extract all the unnecessary things from them. It takes time for the garbage and sand to end up on the bottom. The king hopes the cook won't make him bother with all this. According to the girl, if nothing is done, they won't cook the food. The snails will eventually smell bad if they aren't washed well. This should be done 3 times at intervals of 2 hours, and in the meantime, she will go and collect pine needles in the forest. Cheon-yi sat on the manticor, and the men wished her luck in her search. 3 hours later, the owner returned. The king did not understand when his ward would rest. Why so much preparation? The girl thanked him for the concern. She would return from the forest as soon as she had collected enough food for cooking. Evening. The manticore yawned, the knight slept, and the king continued to watch the girl. She had not sat down even once since his return. He looked at the knight. This boy is nothing but trouble. How to get rid of him? And then the girl announced the appearance of time for rest. The king was surprised. Cheon-yi explained that the snails would be cleaned overnight and could be boiled in the morning. But she continued to do something. The king did not understand. She had mentioned rest, but for some reason continued to work. The hostess reminded her of the cold night, so she lit a fire. The fate of the country is in the hands of the king, so his health is in the hands of the palace servants. Berkus is upset that he is not being listened to, and the girl asks the lord to rest. Moreover, she is almost finished. Finally, he pushes the assistant aside and ignites the fire with one snap of his fingers. Michael was glad that he had taken the sleeping bag, but the king took it away and pointed to the manticore. The knight fell asleep on the beast's paw. Berkus saw the girl by the fire. He had ordered her to rest, but she was afraid that it would go out. The king is worried that the guest will get sick again and oversalt the food. She was upset after such words. Again, she reminded him about the fire. It will go out. The king will freeze. Then the ruler covered her, and they sat together by the flame. In the morning, the girl was walking with a saucepan. The king was worried. Is everything okay? She answered positively and got into the pink smoke. The knight covered his face with his hand. He does not understand why she does this. Cheon-yi finally brought everyone a salad with black snail. She thanked them for the seasonings. The dish turned out well with them. Michael didn't like the food at first, but when he tried it, everything changed. The ingredients were perfectly combined, and he thought they were impossible to cook. After washing, the taste was excellent. The girl asked to eat more carefully, but soon the plate was empty. The knight noted the taste and apologized. Cheon-yi reminded him of the need for a man to keep his word. The guy had recently promised to wear a flower for the rest of his life if the girl told the truth. But there was no flower nearby, so they took a pine cone. The hostess asked the boy to wear the pine cone for now, but when he returned to the city, let him pin a flower to his hair. Soon they said goodbye to him, and the king decided to talk to his cook. Berskich told about the girl's city, but he wondered if she was happy in the palace. He suggested that she leave too if she wanted to live among people, not monsters. To the king's surprise, his guest stayed. He gave her a choice, so why did she decide so quickly? Cheon-yi explained. She became his servant, so shouldn't he be responsible for her future? And the girl enjoys cooking for the king. The king could do nothing about it and decided to tell everything. In the city, he found the house of the girl's father and a woman next to it. When the trio was walking back, Berkus thought about teaching the guest the magic of movement. Starting now, they would have time to see the girl's father again. On the way, the king saw beautiful flowers and ran up to them. It would be better if they found them before the knight left the group. It was incredible to see such beauty now. Cheon-yi explained. There were camellia flowers in front of them. Has the king heard of the expression, a heart that cannot be changed? It means that a pure heart will not move, regardless of the reasons. It will withstand the cold and bloom with bright flowers. And these flowers are camellia flowers. The girl remembered a phrase from her city. If a couple finds this flower together, they will be blessed by heaven itself, and they will die together in love. The king asked the girl, how are they now? And then he remembered. Is that not what he meant? What was she cooking there? The dish had an incomprehensible taste. The girl reminded him that the king had eaten everything. He brushed it off. It was just for evaluation. The guest saw the dragon's red face, but he denied everything. On the contrary, she blushed. Cheon-yi associated it with the wind. The king felt that it was really cold outside. Both of their faces were red. Berkis suggested that they go back to the palace, as they were all cold. For the first time in his life, the dragon stopped hating the morning sun. Seon-yi stood in the company of a manticor, an armor, and a gargoyle. She thanked them for their help and prepared a treat. But the armor is empty inside. The gargoyle has no neck, and the manticore is a predator. The girl brought the piece to Daeho's mouth, but he ate nothing but meat. Out of respect for his favorite, he ate the food. She put a pancake with mushrooms in the armor, and the gargoyle had to eat the same. Then the girl decided to feed the pets with namula, a snack made from boiled or freshly seasoned leaves. At this time, a lizard was watching them. The king slept on the sofa, and the girl cleaned. He wanted first a year, then a month of peaceful sleep. After the trip, he needed to rest. He didn't understand how Cheon-yi continues to work like this. Finally, the king jumped up and decided to talk to the girl. According to him, you have to clean when it's dirty, but if you just sweep, then there's no difference. Isn't it offensive for her to try for nothing? The king advised the girl to clean when it was really dirty. It was better to wait until it was dirtier, and then the hard work would not be in vain. But she seemed not to listen to the dragon. A snap of the fingers, and the hostess stood in front of Berkis. According to the girl, she was thinking about making meiju, fermented dried ground peas. The king does not know what it is. It is an important ingredient in making various sauces. Cheon-yi can prepare more dishes for the monarch with 3 sauces: red pepper paste, soybean paste, and soy sauce. She must work so that the dragon does not eat her. He does not understand how the guest came up with this, but she reminded him of his previous words. The king remembered and is interested in what she will cook with. Cheon-yi found some soybeans, but it is not easy to cook everything with the necessary products. A special device is needed. The king thought, the guest is asking him. But he can even prompt and help. Berkis could create it with magic, but he doesn't know what it looks like. But leaving the baby here is not an option. She will continue cleaning. The ruler remembered a way. There is a lizard in the dungeon that releases fire. She is a salamander. Having found it, the girl will make the necessary device. She stood with 3 friends after this conversation. They must find the salamander, otherwise they will have to give up. Suddenly they noticed that very lizard. The lizard ran away, afraid that they would start laughing at her. Finally, the cook caught up with her. The salamander had a beautiful fire as an ornament. Although she was small, she always won. And 500 years ago, when the salamander was in the dungeon, a new dragon captured it. She loved tasty flowers, but what kind would the owner give her? The lizard was hungry. Her flame was waning. The only hope was for a gift in the form of a flower. One day, the salamander saw a man who ignored her. The creature decided to teach the impudent fellow a lesson as soon as it recovered. But the flame never returned. The girl wonders, does it make any difference what kind of flower is needed? Will the flame return after eating it? The salamander answered in her own language in the affirmative. They went to the lawn, but there were so many flowers there that the lizard could not handle them. She came to the king in the hope that he would help with the problem. But Berkis is surprised. Why would a salamander eat flowers? The girl reported how the animal lost strength due to hunger. It does not eat regardless of the type of flower, but it will eat tasty plants. The king reminded her that the girl was good at cooking, but she didn't know if she could cook flowers. The taste would suddenly be strange, and then she suggested that the monarch cook together. Cheon's hometown, when flowers bloom on the mountaintops, the locals would call for a favorable year. They would make hwajong from azalea leaves and then gather together. Even if one person puts their heart into the dish, it will have an effect. The king reminded him that he was not a human. Cheon was afraid for the salamander's condition if it did not improve. The dragon immediately agreed to cook together. He kneaded the dough and wanted to finish it quickly so he could go to bed. The girl won't be upset, and they'll solve the problem. It's perfect, but... The guest noticed her colleague's efforts, but he had a question. Is this how the dough is made? The ruler has a mess, but the hostess is clean. Did she put something in the king's dough? Cheon denies. They use the same ingredients. Burkus is evil. He, the mighty dragon, can't handle it. So he uses his power. But the girl stopped him. This is not allowed, and she will knead the dough together with the king. The guest asked to work with the tips of her fingers so that it would be soft. The dragon did as she advised and received praise from his ward. Naturally, there is nothing the king cannot do. The girl did not doubt him. She admires that the student figured it out so quickly. They started cooking, but everything burned. The little girl had never seen anything like that. The king was upset because he couldn't cope, and Cheon suggested talking to the dough before cooking. What taste does he want and about the pleasure of the one who will eat, but will give an answer. With these feelings, the king will be able to make the dough. The dragon understood that he did not burn it on purpose. If he corrects himself, the girl will be happy. Because of his actions, this happened to the lizard. He is very sorry. The salamander needs help to eat flowers. The girl asked the king, "Did the dough answer him?" He answered, yes. Then he offered his ward to try his dish. The girl did the same, but the ruler asked the lizard to evaluate the food Cheon. She ate the cookie and produced a powerful flame, which made the girl happy. According to the king, the animal wanted to help her create the device. Soon, everything was ready, and the dragon was glad that he helped at least a little. When he saw Cheon happy, the sauces became very important. But about the device, wouldn't it be better to make the dish bigger to cover the surface? The girl wondered, how big? According to the guest, this is not the case. On the contrary, it will not be so difficult for the salamander. The king decided to make the area larger. Sitting on the manticor, Cheon said, "The ruler is delighted with the meju. There are reasons why the king wished it, but would the girl find enough soy in the city?" The nearest village was in ruins. Everything was overgrown. They decided to go elsewhere. A carriage with 2 carts was driving along a forest road. The same feudal lord tax collector was in charge. This was his first delivery. He had spent all the money, but he should soon receive a decent amount. This will help the businessman buy a better carriage. He will have more clients and will be able to expand his borders. The transport stopped abruptly, and the servant opened the doors. He asked the master to look at something. The feudal lord remembered the first rule: trust. Will he have time now? And he feels uneasy somehow. It dawned on the guy. They are not far from the place where he met the witch and the monster. He began to urge the servants to pull the cart out of the pit more actively. They had to get out quickly. What would happen to the transport if they encountered that dangerous girl? He himself began to work until he noticed how his men were staring at one point. Just as he was outraged by their behavior, he saw where they were looking. That same monster was approaching them. Cheon recognized the guy. He also noticed her and remembered. Squeeze the juice. Use the ingredients. He was filled with fear. The man remembered apologizing to his wife for not being a good husband. His business could be closed without a single delivery and a grain of soy. And if he died now at the hands of a witch, not even his body would remain. The girl was glad to meet this guy, who seemed kind to her. Then he helped with the fence. Only the image does not always correspond to reality. Maybe he will help find the nearest village. The evil feudal lord decided that he wouldn't last time. The girl jumped off the manticore and approached the good mister with a smile. He, hoping to fight back, began throwing soybeans at her. She was surprised and took it as a gift. The boy almost cried. He remembered the method of throwing soy after his mother's tales, that this is how to fight witches. But it did not help. Cheon, not suspecting anything, thanks him for his help. She doesn't know how to respond kindly to her acquaintance. He doesn't understand anything. Cheon admitted that she was worried when the guy lost consciousness back then. He is perplexed. Is the witch worried about him? Is she really checking his health? This is bad. The villain is using the unfortunate man as an experiment. The man admitted to having problems. He had a fungal skin disease on his feet and he suffered from itching. Because of the unpleasant smell, he can't sleep and it's hard to breathe. It hurts to swallow. The poor guy suffers from constipation, diarrhea, and runs to the toilet at night and during the day. Standing in this clearing, he already wanted to run. Cheon thinks that even though everything was difficult for this guy, he helped her. He looked at the girl in surprise. She saw the stuck wheel and remembered the kindness of the man. The girl turned to the manticore, and the feudal lord became frightened. What was she planning? Cheon wondered if the beast would help these people. Daeho met the frightened tax collector's eyes and lifted the carriage into the sky in one fell swoop. The unfortunate man ran away into the forest in panic. In the castle, the girl washed the clay off her feet. The king did not understand what had happened. Was his ward playing somewhere? Cheon remembered the carriage, hoped that they were not rude. But the manticor is familiar with magic, so everything obviously went well. The king thought his cook was tired, but he couldn't blame her. As soon as she arrived, she began working without a single break. Cheon couldn't wash her clothes, and she didn't have any other. Burkus didn't understand what was driving the girl forward. She was exhausting herself again. Does she know how the ruler looks after her later? The king laid the tired maid on the manticor. In her sleep, the poor thing muttered about soy and clay. If she makes meiju for the king, it will be even tastier. The ruler is sure that he is helping to make the snack more delicious, so she should not be mistaken. In the morning, Shaona stood in the company of her familiar friends. She asked the gargoyle to pour a bag of soy into the crotch of the armor's neck. The armor was given a living soul 1,000 years ago. Kajotis ordered them to protect the dungeon, and lived for a long time as the most powerful armor for the previous owner. When the girl asked for a favor, the armor decided to serve her. Then, with the help of the manticore, they all built a place to cook. After thanking everyone, Cheon asked everyone to wait. Soon, everything would be ready. The king was sleeping. He dreamed that he was swimming in the sea among jellyfish and turtles. Riding a unicorn, Burkus floated to the surface, but was covered by a huge and strong wave. The nightmare ended, and the king woke up. Something smelled bad. The king immediately thought of a certain intruder. Is that his smell? He's a high-ranking demon or even a demon lord. How dare he disturb the ruler? For this, he will have to be erased from this world. Burkus saw the girl's cooking utensil and the girl herself nearby. She noticed the ruler and asked, "Did he look at her soy buns? Did the mold spread well on them?" The lizard warmed them up well. Cheon kept remembering her soybean buns and said she was ready to start making the sauce soon for the next month. The disappointed king went back without receiving the treat. The girl was worried that the king was not looking well, and he was sad that he could not do anything while she was hanging around. Cheon did not hear these words. She thought that the Lord was silent so that she would not worry. Burkus lay down on the bed. He was ready to hold his breath, not breathe for 100 years so that nothing would stink. Such a simple decision of fate. He would be able to sleep like this. The girl was still afraid for the ruler's health. She took the gentleman by the hand, but it suddenly fell down. She was already afraid that the unfortunate man had died. What should she do? That's right. The ruler could be revived by Mr. Huang's method. Burkus opened his eye and saw that the girl had gone. Finally, the dragon can sleep. She will remain silent until the soybean cakes ripen, right? Mr. Huang recommended soybean paste and soybeans in such cases. A quick awakening is guaranteed. Unexpectedly, Cheon slapped the soy mixture into the king's face. He immediately stood up, not understanding what had happened to him. But the girl was crying. She explained to the surprised ruler that she thought he had died. She thought it was because she was not serving him well. That's why she tried to pump him out. Of course, she was glad for Mr. Huang's effective method. The king thought to himself that this man had better start praying. According to the girl, Mr. Huang is a doctor from her town. His other recipes are to cure a cold by wrapping a piece of paper around your big toe and setting it on fire. For a headache, spanking helps, but look to the east. Also, cough is treated by drinking water with settled dog feces. The king realized that this gentleman is a charlatan. But considering that the girl thought that the gentleman was dying, he himself will forget about it. Burkus assured that he was fine. She should go and rest. And the vampire Lord Hilbert was sneaking around the castle. He also smelled the stench, but thanks to it, he was freed from the seal on the pendant. The demon saw a dragon, but it was not Caesaris. It can't be, but even if it is, then it is impossible to get caught. Otherwise, a simple sealing won't do. Good thing there is a cloak. Hides the owner's presence. The king was sleeping, and the vampire was indignant at the fact that his clan's treasures had been brought to such a state. The dragon would pay for this. The manticore saw the villain and went after him. The lord could not cope with the enemy in such a state and retreated. The vampire decided to return to the clan, but the manticore stood nearby. The vampire bares his fangs. Now it's either all or nothing. Daiho hasn't seen uninvited guests here for a long time. If he catches the demon, the girl will be happy. As a reward, she will obviously scratch his tummy. The vampire raised his hand in hope and ordered the manticor to sit. To the villain's surprise, the beast calmed down and obeyed him. The Lord is happy. His mind control worked. The manticore turned into a sweet, good little kitten, as the vampire called it. With magic, the villain sat and locked the beast in the coffin of the vampire lord. All cats love boxes. Hilbert must do his duty, even if he had to give up the clan's treasures. He looked at the coffin with the manticore again. He was surprised how easy it was. If you think about it, it was easy to control a magical beast. Before the enemy woke up, the vampire decided to leave. Suddenly, he heard a female voice. It was Cheon looking for her furry pet. Wasn't she with the dragon? Then this was a good opportunity. The girl looked at the box coffin. She thought it was a chest. Did the king really put Daiho here? Suddenly, a vampire appeared and said that he wanted to see her as his food. Hilbert, with a girl on his shoulder, went into a tavern and asked for a room for two for a couple of days, excluding food. He gave them a silver coin and did not ask for change. The worker took them to the right place and left them alone. The vampire is happy. He can finally rest. He decided to lie down and then fill his stomach with the captive's blood. He was too tired to reach the bed and fell on the floor with the girl. She soon woke up. Cheon saw the man who had kidnapped her nearby. He had treated her so rudely, but he also looked bad. What was wrong with him, I wonder? Despite the stranger's rudeness, the kind captive did not want to leave him like that. Going down, she asked the worker who was seeing them off for rice and garlic for porridge for one of the sick people. Taking the products, she returned and cooked the porridge. She began to cool it, otherwise the kidnapper would burn his tongue. Hilbert woke up and smelled the smell. Cheon asked how he was. She doesn't know why he brought her here, but let him introduce himself and eat the porridge. The Lord is surprised by such attention, but he tries the food. The garlic did its job. He thought the girl had opened it. He suddenly felt sick. The tavern worker studied the sheet of paper with all attention. It depicted Cheona. She was a witch. The man ran out into the street in fear. Armed guards stood near the large castle and shouted about the appearance of a witch. A man with a scroll in his hands reported to the gentleman at the table. According to him, the owner of the tavern inn compared the client with the portrait on the leaflet, and the hotel owner confirmed that this is the same witch. She is accompanied by a young guy. Apparently, this is her servant. And after preparing the porridge with garlic, she did not take any action. The gentleman is afraid he won't get much money from selling people into slavery from that village if it's all about the witch. And that tax collector ran away without doing anything. But it's lucky that the witch showed herself. The master came out to the guards and ordered to restore peace in the province at any cost. It is necessary to defeat the evil witch, so that later we can look for people from that city again. The Dragon King lay on the bed in his room, and Cheon was cleaning nearby. He was disappointed. Everyone should rest from time to time. There was no need to be diligent. He couldn't bear to hear her sweeping here. Wants every day to be peaceful, like today. But there was a noise, and soon a manticore appeared in front of him. Everything became clear. The Dragon King decided to wipe every vampire off the face of the earth. Cheon was standing next to the bed with Hilbert at the hotel at that time. She didn't think she'd see him so energetic after porridge. Now this stranger was just lying on the sofa. And in front of the hotel stood that same gentleman, the feudal lord of the province. Standing with the guards, he declared to everyone that there was evil here, better known as a witch. She was hiding here, and she needed to come out and repent of her sins. The girl was surprised and opened the window, where she saw warriors with multicolored hair. She thinks there is no one from Joseon among them. She saw the lord and took him for an official. She does not understand why the guards are here since early morning. The feudal lord and the clerk saw her open window. Cheon thought they were here to arrest the stranger in bed. But it would be hard for him in prison in this state, but he had to atone for his sins. The girl decided to greet them first. The lord suspected the girl of using magic to hide her presence, but she leaned out of the window and asked how the official was doing, not forgetting to introduce herself. The aristocrat was surprised. She was a witch? The clerk asks the gentleman not to be deceived by her appearance. He showed him a leaflet with that portrait on the leaflet. Despite her appearance, she commits such atrocities. This proves that she is a witch. The Lord now wants to get down to business. Criminals must repent of their misdeeds. So why shouldn't the girl surrender? The little girl agrees, but she asks for a little time. They are not in the best shape for repentance now. Doesn't she think she looks great? The Lord threatened that if she drags out time, it will make things worse. How ridiculously she justifies herself. Cheon-em understands everything. The circumstances are unimportant and the payment for sins is inevitable. A manticor and a dragon king landed in the same city square. The beast must find a beautiful person at any cost to support his current lifestyle. They rushed to the hotel, and Cheon was dragging the unconscious vampire on her back. She thought about the need to talk to the official because the stranger had not gotten any better. Downstairs, she sat the kidnapper down on a chair. She told him that due to a lack of knowledge, she did not understand some things. But she had heard about a longer duration of connection between people after their first meeting. Burkus was in the crowd at the hotel but did not see the girl, and she complained about her bad acquaintance with the vampire. But if he repents, then they will meet in another place under different circumstances. Despite everything, the little girl wishes him recovery. Opening the door, she pulled him out and the demon burst into flames. The audience was horrified. This is a curse. The Lord could not even imagine that the girl would do this. The man replied that he was more of a healer. The feudal lord was glad because the officer knew how to use magic. Everyone was counting on him. The Lord pushed his companion forward. He looked around warily. Cheon poured water on the vampire and leaned over him. She asked if he was okay. This is what is called a bolt from the blue. This poor guy has incurred the wrath of God and is now unconscious. The officer is surprised by the girl's treatment of the one she set on fire. She does this in order to torture him further. Now he is afraid of ending up like the one on Earth if he attacks the witch. The officer decided to pretend to fight her, and in the end he would lose. No one would realize that he had used magic. Having shouted that he was attacking, the would-be warrior fell down. The Lord was disappointed with him, but was determined to catch the witch. Otherwise, he won't retire. No matter the witch's strength, she won't be able to defeat so many soldiers at once. She must be overwhelmed by numbers. He only urged the fighters to attack, but Burkus appeared nearby. He asked the Lord to answer the question of how a dragon feels when he can't sleep. The possible answers are, he's furious about it. He wants to sleep, but he's lazy. He destroys everything lazily. Rude curse word. The Lord shouts that the newcomer is very impudent for a guy who came out of nowhere. How dare he even talk like that? The king feigns disappointment because it was a simple question. A manticor appeared, and the Lord was horrified. Burkus jokingly offered him to scratch the beast. Surprised, Cheon asked how her master got here. He only hoped for a rest, but his ward had already been kidnapped. The girl feels sorry for the vampire, which surprises the king. Hilbert wanted to steal the poor thing. Cheon hopes to hear the villain's repentance. Having grabbed the vampire, the king reminded people of their ability to betray trust. She knows, but she still hopes. Burkus is glad that his cook is not hurt. They put the vampire on the same bed, and the king cleaned up the room a little. If the villain starts acting up, then Burkus himself should be called. Hilbert originally planned to save his clan if everything went according to plan. The dragon thought he had gotten a bug, but he was wrong. Now the monster intends to destroy the entire demon race. But he would let the vampire decide what he could do for him. And then Hilbert realized his clan's dream was just a dummy. They had been hiding in the shadows for centuries, drinking blood for sustenance. And in their situation, no one could help them. If another kind of blood were found, vampires would no longer be destroyed and considered enemies. They lived in isolation. Kindred told Hilbert about the impossibility of escaping alive from the dragon. In the Lord's opinion, there was still a chance that everything would work out. They couldn't give up now. He could come back and solve the problem. But in his current state, the vampire couldn't do anything. He thanked Cheon for listening to him. Then he offered to kill him. Hilbert never thought he would die at the hands of a human girl. She called him senior, and she doesn't understand what he's been through. If a vampire can't digest animal blood, why not just boil it? The demon doesn't understand why. Cheon explained that in her city, people do this with one dish. Its name is hejangor. Soon the girl was cooking in the kitchen. She praised the generous people in this village who gave so many ingredients. The girl thinks they were afraid of the guest, maybe because they did not know her. The king thinks it's because of confusion. The locals perceive the girl as a witch, but he won't tell her this directly. He asks if Cheon feels sorry for these peasants. She answers, she doesn't like being among people. They make her nervous and the girl's heart beat faster. Burkus connected this with the sweetness of his mistress. He decided to go to bed and advise the girl to watch the cooking. The king went outside, and before going to rest, he decided to meet someone. And the girl continued cooking. If the victim does not digest raw animal blood, then he will eat soup with a blood base. Cheon is happy to help the vampire, and all this thanks to the cooking lecture. This is one of the best haejangguk she has ever made. There is still hope that the food will help. Hilbert tried the soup and was surprised. He managed to drink animal blood. He asked for more. The girl gave it to him because she still had some. The vampire regretted it because if he had thought about it then, there would have been no problem. The vampire's nose started bleeding. He doesn't understand why they boil the blood. The same thing happens when they drink it. He is angered by the girl's laughter, but she was surprised by the villain's fate. He went through hardships and met her and haejangguk. The efforts were not in vain, and they met. The vampire agrees with this, and Cheon ready to teach her new friend how to cook this dish. Hilbert happily thanks his savior. Burkus came up to them. He wants to join, and the vampire is surprised. When did he come? The vampire just found a way to save the clan, so he can't let the king catch him. He thinks the demon should thank the girl. She doesn't cook for just anyone. They began to communicate mentally. Hilbert wondered what the king would do with him. He would do nothing, but otherwise the guest would be neither alive nor dead. But since Cheon was fine, let him finish eating and leave. The king asked out loud if the girl really thought he was jealous that she was feeding this stranger something tasty. He demanded that she take a certain evil ruler with her. But if the vampire continued to talk like that, he would not return home. The girl thought that something was bothering the elder. He asked her to pour him more soup. Soon, Hilbert was ready to go. He thanked her for everything and promised not to forget the kindness of these people. The sun had not set yet, and thanks to Cheon, he was able to recover. The king mentally asked the guests to fly away. The clan was waiting for the vampire, and he himself said that he needed to hurry. Having turned into a bat, Hilbert flew away. The girl wished him a good flight and expressed hope for a meeting. Burkus asked his ward to get ready. They returned to the dungeon. She decided to cook something for the master when they returned. But the vampire left some soup. She couldn't throw it away. And there were a lot of guards near the hotel who could be fed. The hostess gave them hot food. 3 hours before, the king had found himself in the village chief's office, where the two had met. The official was surprised by the man's appearance. Burkus showed the title deed to the land. From that day on, he appointed his subordinate as its owner. That same officer also received the soup. He took it as a gift to all who had become slaves of the witch. If he didn't eat it, the villainess would get angry. Started eating. The taste is sweet and salty. What a combination of vegetables. Never tried anything like it. The king came and asked, did she share with everyone? The girl is happy to bring happiness to people. Burkus doesn't understand her joy for the happiness of others. Humanity has long brought advantages. It was valued at that time. Does the girl even understand what she is talking about? She did not fully realize it, and she admitted it herself. The officer is surprised. Until that day, despite the fact that the land was changing due to the greed of the master, he did his job and ignored the complaints, not wanting to have anything to do with them. But the girl helped to understand a lot. Cheon, the king, the armor, and the gargoyle mounted the manticor. The officer dreamed of making people more useful and was ready to work. The guest asked everyone to take care of themselves, and Burkus informed everyone that the soup was made from cow's blood. People were horrified. Spring came. Manticor was resting on the lawn in the sun. Cheon wanted to collect the necessary herbs. A dandelion flew into the room. The girl does not understand how it managed to do this. It was ideal weather for sleep, but the king has insomnia. The hostess wonders if the king has sneezed. But something else worries him. He asks her to come to him. The girl thought he was dozing. Yes, Burkus did. He suggested that his charge go and rest. Cheon doesn't want to. She never sleeps during the day. According to the king, in spring there are warm sun rays. The girl agreed, and the Lord sent her to sleep. This must be done both in the summer, when it is hot, and in the fall, when the cold wind, and in winter it is cold. So you have to sleep under a blanket. And the king forbids Cheon to clean. She can do it, but only once every 10 years. The little girl can't do that because cleaning clears the mind and the house for a peaceful life. Berkis convinces her of the purity of the house and mind. The girl pointed to the king's bed. It proves the opposite. Gold and jewels were lying on the bed. He assured her that it was more convenient. Convenience brings laziness. Cheon thinks he doesn't have to worry because she enjoys cleaning. At times like these, the little girl remembers her home. Her father couldn't see properly, so things had to be sorted and put away. Sometimes she cleaned so well that she couldn't find some things. Then her father miraculously found them. Berkis couldn't stop his mistress and began to study the theory of moving between worlds in his sleep. But the king may not wake up for a couple of days. He asks the girl to watch his tricks. A hand movement. And an ice cream appears in front of Cheon. Does she like it? It looks delicious, right? Will she be able to make something tastier? The girl is upset because how can she make shaved ice? Berkis named the dish and explained, "It is cold, melts in your mouth and is great in the heat." The girl does not know where the ice is, but she will ask the manticor about it. Cheon needs an ice cave, but in the heat, the ice in it could melt. Manticor was sleeping, and the girl decided to turn to the others, but the result was the same. And the cold wind was still blowing from the dungeon. But maybe she'll find what she wants there? The girl went where the wind was coming from. It was getting colder. There had to be an exit somewhere around here. Suddenly, the mistress rolled down and was dragged by the water flow. Finally, she landed in a hall with columns. The earth shook and the girl saw the golem from ice. The man who carved this form from ice gave it a soul. He ordered his creation to protect the dungeon. Thus, the golem was born. He gained incredible strength, power and magic that allows him not to slip on the ice. But when the creator disappeared, the magic evaporated too. The girl felt sorry for the ice golem. I wonder why he falls. She came up to him and greeted him, not forgetting to introduce herself. The daughter of the Simga family. Cheon told how she got here following the cold wind and met the golem, and she wants to know the reason for his fall. The monster knew about the inadmissibility of people staying here, but he could not catch them due to his position. Cheon approached the golem and can help him. He warned about the danger of approaching him, but the girl has already touched the creature. His ice is colder than usual. It freezes your hands and is difficult to measure. But if she gets the size wrong, the golem will hurt itself. Cheon washed in winter, and her hands should be able to withstand it. She finishes and asks the creature to wait until she knits him shoes. Came back with green branches. Made golem happy. If he puts the shoe on his foot, it will be easier for him to stand. The bigger it is, the more noticeable that it is tied. In case of a mistake, the shoe will be ruined. The golem is very big, so you need to weave thick shoes. Having finished, I asked my new friend to put them on. The monster likes the gift, but it won't help him. He was wrong and really didn't slip in the slippers. The girl is worried if he is comfortable. The golem is happy, he can stand. But did she have a reason to help him? The guest will use him to take over the world. He is ready to do everything that the visitor asks. Cheon thinks the monster wants to pay her back. She leads him along and shows him the coffin of the vampire king. The creature recognizes him. The little girl's wish is for the golem to live a happy life in this box. He is touched by the guest's wish. Keona was just thinking about how to use the coffin. She is glad that golem will be able to use it. The politeness of a human girl helped create the world's first refrigerator. It was rude for her to ask her new acquaintance for a piece of ice from his body, but otherwise the Dragon King would kill her. She didn't know what to do, but the coffin opened and the golem gave her an ice rose. The coffin froze well. Cheon asked permission to look at the ice for a while. She never thought she would get what she wanted so easily. The hostess found the well-rested manticore and asked him to fly to the garden with fruits. She will make the shaved ice as tasty as possible. Some noise attracted the girl. She turned around. She saw the familiar tax collector and officer from the village stuck in the branches. Cheon suggested finding the sources of the sound, but the manticore reminded her of the traps at the castle wall. The girl didn't want to ignore him. The beast was talking about danger, but then she would go herself. The manticore took the girl on himself, and soon they saved the two, for which they received gratitude. The girl is happy about this because people's lives were in danger. The unfortunate knight even thought that he would die. They told how they got here. A couple of weeks ago, in the feudal lord's castle, an officer sat at the table and lamented the lack of a signature from the new head of these lands. The king appointed Cheon as the one. A servant entered the room and reported a riot in the prison. The officer thought it was normal, but he went down to check anyway. And in the cell, 3 prisoners were beating that same night. A couple of months before, he was pushed into a cell. He received money for catching a witch, but he never did it. The feudal lord threatened that as long as he was there, the poor guy would never see the light of day. The guy ended up in prison, but he was determined to enjoy life here. He asked 3 of his cellmates where he could find a flower. He still tried to keep his promise, but the poor guy was beaten up for it. The villains beat the unfortunate man, but he did not die. They were horrified. Was he a man? Incredibly tenacious. The guy assumed that the bandits had no complaints about the flower. He asked if the hair ornament was tilted, but received no answer. The officer asked the boy if he was the one who was ordered to eliminate the witch. She became the mistress of this land. He wants to know something about her, so now the knight is following him. In the office, he explained that he does not know about the girl's weaknesses, but the officer is not interested in this. He is also the manager, so he is not even obliged to know this. He needs to report to the king about the new owner, but he does not have the latter's signature. A young man signed instead of the girl. The knight immediately thought of the Dragon King. If the officer does not find her signature, his family will be punished. Does the boy know how to get the signature? The knight advised to come to the dungeon and wait. The spanking girl will come out. The manager does not believe that it is so simple. The interlocutor does not think so because the little girl is not a witch. The officer asks to go there with him. He is immune to physical attacks, so he can accompany the officer to the dragon's lair. The guy reminded him of his imprisonment, but the manager is ready to free him as a reward. They waited for 2 weeks at the dungeon, but no one came out to them. Then the couple decided to get inside themselves. They got trapped, but were soon saved by Cheon. She regrets that they would not have suffered if she had come earlier. The boys consider themselves guilty because they did not wait, but they thank the girl for saving them. The officer remembered the words that she was an ordinary girl, but he does not understand why she lives in the dungeon. Cheon still feels sorry, but the manager is afraid to anger the witch. Manticor reminded the girl about the need to fly away. She remembered and asked the guys about their business with the Dragon King. He is sleeping now, so they must wait. The knight began to stutter about the signature, but it did not matter to the officer. He would think of something to talk about with the king. Cheon would drop in to see the master in connection with this matter. The boys were afraid, and the girl hurried them. The manager was afraid of being deceived and eaten. But first, the knight climbed onto the manticore, and then his companion had to do the same. They set off and soon arrived in the forest. When they landed, the knight asked how they could help the girl. She asked to gather fruit and honey for grated ice. That is, a cool dessert that melts in your mouth. The knight was perplexed. The king wanted something cold because of the warmth. The girl said that she was preparing food for the ruler of the dragons. She was happy for their help, but she was going to look for raspberries, and they should do their business in the area. It was strange for the manager that the king ate ordinary food. He saw the suspicious look of the manticore and rushed into the forest to look for fruits. They worked and saw for themselves how the girl worked. How come she wasn't tired yet? Cheon was also collecting ripe fruits. The boys watched the little girl pick raspberries. When she came out to them with a full basket, the boys asked if she would pick the rest of the berries. She would, but now for the birds. This will allow the seeds to spread and the harvest to be collected again. The two thought the job was done, but Cheon disappointed them. There was still honey to be collected from the old tree. They did not understand why from the old ones. According to the hostess, that is where bees like to settle. The trio is looking for honeycombs inside the tree. She suggested that they take a rest, and they all sat down near a stone on the lawn. A bee flew past the knight, and Cheon noticed it. She stood up and asked everyone to hurry up. The officer could barely keep up with everyone. Soon they came to the right tree. Luckily, they found it right away, in the tree, and it could be extracted without cutting anything down. The girl pulled out the important product manually, Although it was dangerous, the boys stood in great surprise. They had collected everything and could return. When Cheon makes honey, the king will wake up. The knight whispered to his comrade to do something. He understood that if he kept silent, they would soon meet the dragon. The girl assures that the gentleman is really kind. She asks not to be afraid of him. She is sure of his friendliness to the guests. Moreover, they helped with collecting the ingredients for grated ice. The guys realized they were in trouble and almost cried. The manticor took off when everyone sat on top. The officer wanted to tell her the truth before it was too late and come back when he got the signature. But soon they found themselves in the throne room with the gargoyle, the armor, the lizard, and the golem. The manager is surprised. Is this the center of the nest? The golem came up to them and gave the girl an ice duck. Suddenly, a king appeared in front of them in the form of a dragon and a manticore. Throwing off the occupants, ran away. The knight fell and did not understand what had happened. Scratching himself, the manager said that he was okay too. Burkus took the girl in his arms, worried. But she was okay. The guest remembered his companion's words that the dragon was a silver-haired guy. Gomti just thought about escaping, but realized that the dragon would catch them. The knight remembered the last meeting. There was nothing bad then. Maybe this time he will be lucky? Cheon did not believe that the king was holding her in his arms. She fell from the manticore and even got hurt. The girl is ready to smear the injury with bean paste and everything will be fine. The king thinks otherwise. The wound will get worse. With a magical touch of his hand, he healed his favorite. Cheon was almost shocked. But how could she thank the king now? He asked, "She would cook, right?" The girl told him about picking raspberries in the forest for dessert and honey. All this will help her prepare a delicacy. The king looked at the girl with distrust and ordered her to rest for 3 days. This is an order, and he does not want to hear anything, even if she has a lot to do. Even guests are not a reason to work. The king is dissatisfied. She does not want to listen to him? Such an opportunity rarely occurs. Finally, Cheon left, and Burkus waved his hand at her with a smile. 2 in the country looked at him. The king turned to them. How dare they break into the dungeon? The knight reminded them of his name, Michael, and assured them that they had not broken in. And the manager reported how they had already met. His name was Alfred. The king does not know what to do with them because these guests have interfered with his research. If so, they will be his test subjects. They will go to another dimension for a while. The children, in fear, tried to resist, but it was useless. The ruler advises them to stick together if they don't want to get lost. Alfred and Michael didn't want to move, but they couldn't do anything. Soon they found themselves in a strange place in a large square. There were many people in unusual clothes, a large monument, and many tents. Alfred read the inscription, World Food Festival. Michael did not understand where the dragon sent them. A sudden flash of light illuminated them. The knight was angry at the man who did this, and he was looking at the camera and apologizing to the strangers. The aliens suspected that this guy was using magic, but the people around them are so strong that the 2 of them can't feel their mana. The boys decided to avoid fighting strangers, and when the same guy with the camera suggested taking a picture together, they ran away in panic. They found themselves in the city subway and looked around in surprise, not believing that such a place existed. The appearance of the rest of the people from those who were outside at the festival was also surprising. Michael thinks that it could all be a class difference. He decides to help them and rushes forward despite Alfred's cries. The knight has stuck to a guy and is ready to help him escape from this unfair world. The city dweller does not understand who is in front of him, and Michael assures that it is too early to give up and live such a life. The guy asks to leave him and go away. A law enforcement officer was already approaching them, but the manager pulled his friend away. They went out into the street again. There were many people with the same clothes. Alfred asks his companion not to do that again. A girl came up to them and asked about the way to the festival. The guests thought about it, but they were in this village for the first time, as the manager answered. Alfred thought that if they were in a village, there must be a castle. The girl was already leaving, mistaking the guys for festival participants. But the couple called him to ask where the fortress was. The girl outlined a brief plan on how to get to the castle. The manager happily turned to his fellow traveler. He had found a way to return. The dragon had sent them to another dimension. If there was a village here, there was a castle. and there will be a magician in the castle to whom they can turn for help. He is delighted with the thoughts of the amazing manager. He explained. It just came to him. For the king, they were experimental bugs in a small stone bucket. They came out on a busy city road with lots of cars. How would they get through it? Alfred had heard of dimensions where objects were moved by magic. In that case, there were magic carriages in front of them. If it's a carriage, there's a person in it. Won't they stop when the boys cross? As soon as they stepped onto the roadway, they caused an accident. The cars stopped and the drivers didn't understand what was going on. The guests from another world made sure that everything was all right with them. Eyewitnesses told the inspector that the two were simply walking along the road, and the driver complained about a damaged car. The policeman first intends to confirm the identities of the two. The policeman tried to talk to Michael and Alfred in English, but they didn't understand him. Things improved when he switched to Korean. The guard asked the boys for their IDs, but they looked at him in surprise. The inspector couldn't understand how this was possible. He remembered seeing something similar in Illegal Algorithms. That film talked about the connection between immigrants, traffic accidents, and so on. According to the law enforcement officer, these two are hiding something, because most people, even having visited the festival, usually do not wear such clothes. He invited the violators to come with him, but caused anger among drivers and witnesses. The driver asked to deal with his car issue. The guard considered it important to identify the villains. Everything had to be resolved in order, but the violators had mysteriously disappeared. The inspector blamed the annoying driver for this. Cheon returned to the throne room and saw no guests. Burkus reminded her of the order to rest for 3 days. So why was she on her feet? But Cheon had really been doing nothing all this time. Now she has to clean up, make sure the honey is full, scratch the manticore, and feed the king. He is surprised that 3 days have passed. The girl was going to make shaved ice since the honey is filtered, but she didn't find the hero and the manager, so she went to look for them. Burkus told how those two had gone somewhere for a while and they might not come back. The little one wanted to heal them a little. When will they come back already? And then the couple landed on the floor of the hall. Cheon is glad. They returned just in time. The girl was afraid that they would not return. They left without saying goodbye at all. She looked at the guys' faces. Nondescript. Are they sick? What happened to them? But are they better now? Now she will bring them something tasty. The girl left, and the guys began to look around unkindly. The king did not think to see them back here at all. Let them consider themselves lottery winners. Alfred thanked the ruler out loud because they were saved, supposedly, thanks to him. If he had not been a dragon, they would have beaten him. Soon everyone was eating the prepared dessert. Cheon to his sofa. She was surprised because she was a simple girl. But it's good if the ruler doesn't mind. Alfred ate. It was incredibly delicious. Although it was just ice with honey and berries, the king addressed him mentally, calling him the Lord's servant. He demanded that he not make noise in life, for that way he would live longer. Albert did not understand, but the king explained. He is the dragon from the cave of Maryun. If word got around, people would try to kill him to become heroes. So if he blabbed about it, the dragon would burn him and everything connected to him. The poor manager swallowed a piece of dessert in fear. He understood everything. And the king, smiling, asked the boy to eat everything before it melted. Albert's hands were shaking from horror. He had to eat more slowly. Michael asked for more, if possible. Cheon complied without any problems. The boys thanked for the treat after eating. The girl was glad that they liked it. Daeho would help them get out of here. Then Alfred remembered how right now Yoonji's people were starving. It would be easier for them if he, the manager, turned a blind eye to everything. The girl noticed the thoughtful look of the guest. She asked if he was okay. He answered that he was. But he also felt guilty. He wanted to help the people of the land by doing everything right. But high taxes don't work. Empty talk won't solve anything, but no lord has ever lowered taxes. Cheon only now realized what was bothering her guest. The girl decided to share a smart thought with the manager. In her homeland, they say, an evil ruler is the worst misfortune. One day, Confuzi asked a sobbing woman sitting by the grave. The philosopher wondered why she was crying. And she told him how the tiger had killed her family. Albert intervened in the story. Why didn't the woman leave? The philosopher was also curious about what the crying woman said. Low taxes. The guests of the dungeon are surprised by such an answer from the heroine of the story. She was less afraid of the tiger than the duties. Cheon understands the manager, but taxes, with all due respect, are a bad thing. The knight wanted to know what happened to the woman, but history is silent about it. Albert became sad. She talks about lowering taxes. Will this save the Lord? The manager simply did not believe in it. The manager seemed to have changed. An idea had struck him. They could finally lower the duties. He didn't have to lose his way now. His eyes were shining. The girl looked at him and asked the knight. He thought the manager had dealt with the anxiety? Michael had to agree. The king asked them to hurry if they had finished eating. The guests climbed onto the manticor, and the girl asked him to take care of the children. Alfred is determined. As soon as he arrives, he will lower the taxes and set up a land transfer business. If the fee is reduced, the people of Huangju will return. If this happens, the population will grow, and that means the harvest will increase by autumn. Manticor planted them on the ground, and the guys left in the direction of the village. Alfred was sure that he could handle it. Michael is happy, because they survived the dragon's dungeon. And the manager reminded about the permission to reduce taxes. The knight congratulated him on this occasion. The Gaffel estate now has a great future. The knight is ready to help his comrade in this matter. He will even send the documents to His Majesty right now. The manager's face suddenly distorted. He forgot to get the girl's signature on the land management. Alfred thinks about forging the signature, but Michael reminds him of the punishment. The officer is not afraid of this. It is better for him to go to prison than to return there. And months later, in the kingdom of Talia, King Alfonso II allowed to write a report on the robbery of Gaffel. The king received a servant who told about the results of the interrogation of people who saw the witch. Everyone described her the same way. It was confirmed that the new lord of the Gaffel lands is Cheon Yi, that same witch. Alfonso II thought that she really stole these lands. Apparently, she had some companions. There are assumptions that the girl is listened to voluntarily by magical animals. The king is horrified by the witch's magic. According to the speaker, she is a completely normal girl, but she claims to have come from a place that does not exist on the continent. The ruler is in a panic that this is all that can be told to him. No one had ever found another continent. The king turned to the wizard sitting next to him. What did he think? He allowed the girl to use a type of magic that was still unknown. The ruler needs proof, but the speaker only knows that the witch cooks well. But there are also magical beasts. The servant explains this by the fact that the girl has a partner. His name is Berkis, 20 years old and an excellent magician. Alfonso is surprised that a boy of such age became a magician. But if he became a servant of the king, it would strengthen the latter's position. The king decided to recruit the young man. But is there a chance that Berkis will serve him? The servant does not think it is possible because of the boy's unflappable nature. If he is asked personally, he will refuse. The monarch wonders if there are other ways to recruit this young mage. The servant suggested giving priority to the girl first. They say Berkis is temperamental, but this can be used against him. But if you overdo it, it will turn out badly in the end. According to the speaker, if that girl joins them, then her lover will follow her. What to do? And then the court wizard gave an idea. The cooking festival. Cheon was picking berries in the forest when she overheard two peasants talking. One was talking about a royal event nearby. She heard it as a food festival with an award. People talked about the huge prize money and glory for the winner. You can get a mansion and live in a palace with your family and great love. One of the villagers seemed to regret not learning to cook earlier. The girl thought about the possibility of moving to the capital if she won. She imagined meeting her father, but then she caught herself. No need to think about it, she had to feed the Dragon King. Cheon returned to the dungeon and began cleaning in a dazed state. The king did not understand what was wrong with her. While combing the manticor, the mistress thought that if she won, she would be able to meet her family. She would obviously be happy to see her father. Finally, the manticor was shining after cleaning, and the girl went to lubricate the armor, massage the gargoyle. Berkis did not understand what had happened to his ward. The king ran into the room where Cheon was and asked what was wrong with her. She had gone for a walk yesterday and found wild pumpkins. Then she baked pancakes from them. She gave the ruler the black-colored products. He was surprised, he thought, but the girl didn't eat poisonous mushrooms in the forest. Cheon asked anxiously, "Is there something wrong if such questions?" But the king is fine. But with her, he is interested in her condition. Still remembering those peasants in the forest, the girl remained silent. In her excitement, she picked up a plate of pancakes but dropped it and it broke. She began to grieve because she had burned the boss's food and talked about a fatal mistake. Now the king will definitely kill her. But he took her in his arms and asked again, "What is this fatal mistake?" Cheon will not die because of spoiled food, but only today, since he is not hungry. And now let him tell him as it is. And the girl confessed her desire to participate in the royal culinary festival. The king was surprised, but the subordinate told how she overheard a dialogue between peasant lumberjacks. And the winner will be able to live in the capital with his family. The king, even though he was a dragon, would have checked everything first and not rushed into trouble. Why didn't she, a human, do this? It all sounds easy, but it should be much more difficult. Cheon is ready to try to be better than she is today. Cheona begged the king to give her a chance. He decided it was worth a try. But the girl couldn't handle the capital's life, and it couldn't be said that her father was in another world. Even if she won this festival, she will be incredibly disappointed. The king could destroy the capital, but then there will be no culinary event and the girl will be upset. There is no choice. But if she goes alone, the poor thing will be deceived again. Berkis decided to go with his ward. If he uses the spell at the festival, he will help the girl return home. Cheon was counting on winning to meet her father. She promised the king to try, but immediately burst into tears. The dragon suggested moving forward with the manticor, armor, and other household members. Holding hands, they moved to the capital. The manticore and the others shrank in size and fit into the girl's arms. The little girl liked the city. Everything looked beautiful. Berkis handed her money and asked her to buy something to eat. But the festival did not start, and the king became sad. He already wanted to go home. He was tired. Cheon was surprised that he gave her money. But the dragon calmed her down because there was still a lot of gold in the dungeon. He saw a hotel and said he wanted to rest there for a while. The king asked his ward not to worry, to have fun, and went to the room where he collapsed on the sofa. Cheon decided to walk around the city with the manticore. Was it always like this in Hanyangdo? She had only heard about it. The girl thought about her father. If only he could see something like that too. She remembered how she once told him about 2 rainbows in the sky. That was something. Dad thought that it would lead to something good. And once their cat Narangi gave birth to kittens. Their paws are just like hers. The father is sure that the cat will be able to recognize them in any case. She also suggested that the parent go to the shore, where the rapeseed flowers were blooming. Cheon then knitted flower wreaths for him and herself. They laughed and were happy. She remembered all this in the town square. The little girl sobbed but assured herself that she would meet her dad.